What's going on, everybody? It's your observant lineman, Uche Nwaneri, and today we've got some breaking news coming out of the NHL. I know I don't cover too much of hockey, but this was notable because what happened to this ref by the name of Tim Peel, he was caught on a hot mic talking about making basically a makeup call because of a penalty that led to a score earlier in a game that he reffed. We'll get into those details here in just a second. But the NHL has fired this guy as a referee. He will no longer ref in the NHL as a professional referee. I'd like to get a little bit into this. Let's see a little bit more into the details here. Now, the NHL did release an official statement. It says, referee Tim Peel no longer working NHL games. National Hockey League Senior Executive Vice President of Hockey Operations, Colin Campbell, announced today that referee Tim Peel, following his comments during the game last night between Detroit Red Wings and Nashville Predators, no longer will be working with NHL games now or in the future. Nothing is more important than ensuring the integrity of our game, Campbell said. Tim Peel's conduct is in direct contradiction to the adherence to that cornerstone principle that we demand of our officials and that of our fans, players, coaches, and all those associated with our game expect and deserve. There is no justification for his comments, no matter the context or his intention, and the National Hockey League will take any and all steps necessary to protect the integrity of our game. Now, let's take a look at the actual situation, the hot mic.
It wasn't much, but I wanted to get a fucking penalty against Nashville early in the... It wasn't much, but I wanted to get a fucking penalty against Nashville early in the... It wasn't much, but I wanted to get a fucking penalty against Nashville early in the...
Okay, so this is coming from Nate, and this is a retweet by Nate Silver, but obviously Nate Silver is well known in the sports media world. He says, so an NHL ref got fired for saying on a hot mic that he was looking to make a makeup call. Nashville had scored a power play goal in the first period after a Detroit penalty. Makeup calls are very common in hockey, though. And, as I sit here and as we listen to this, I mean, I couldn't really tell. I mean, I could tell he was talking about making it wasn't much, as in it wasn't a huge foul, but he wanted to make a call against Nashville early and then the mic cuts out. So definitively, it's hard to know what he was saying or what he was going to say, had he been recorded speaking more. But clearly, I mean, it does seem like a makeup call. And I mean, we've seen this in sports a lot. I know for me personally, as an athlete, playing in the NFL, I've seen that happen a number of times where, you get a hold call. There maybe wasn't a big hold. It wasn't like an egregious hold. I mean, by the technical terms, it may have been a hold. But, later in the game, that same ref also makes a defensive pass interference call that actually, helps in a crucial situation. And we never actually come out and say it out loud, but those seem like makeup calls because that defensive back maybe didn't commit such an egregious pass interference foul. So it's like, it's kind of the nature of the game. I mean, sometimes referees do make calls that are very like borderline. You could have let that go and it wouldn't have been a difference to the play. And maybe there's other opportunities where they see something that might be a little bit in that same realm where it's tight. It's not really clear cut whether it's a penalty or not, but they do give the foul because they know that they might have been a little bit off on the first one. And even though this one is still technically a foul, it can be considered the same way. So that does happen in the sports world for a lot of team sports. I mean, especially in team sports, hockey refs are out to get you if they already got the other guy. And this is an article by Noah Davis and Michael Lopez. So as we look at this chart here, past penalties after future calls, all NHL penalties from 2005 to 2015, the regular season. Says here, this is pretty compelling evidence the referees' past calls influence their next calls. The chart includes every NHL penalty call between the start of the 2005-2006 season and the end of the 2014-2015 regular season. And it looks at all infractions in a game and how the difference in penalties called on each team affects the next call. As an example, if a home team has been called for 3 penalties and the away team 5, the away team would be owed 2 calls, which makes sense. The tendency for prior violations to affect NHL penalties is enormous. When home teams are owed penalties, they are called for penalties at much lower rates, and the inverse holds for away teams. And I think that is, again, just speaking to the home field advantage. So a team that's known for playing rough and that goes on the road, a team that's known for being a physical team, if they're on the road, there's a good chance that refereeing group is going to be looking more closely at what they're doing. The home team is usually benefited the doubt there. So it's kind of a makeup call thing. It's kind of a balancing act. So you don't want one side to have such a huge difference in the balance of the penalty calling to where it just obviously is working to their advantage and they're not getting called for anything. So I think that when you look at what the ref said here for this game between Detroit and Nashville, Tim Peel is actually kind of trying to keep the balance within the game. Now, he said it wasn't much, but it was pretty much still a foul, even if it wasn't much of a foul. I've been called for holds that weren't much of a hold. So that can happen, and that does bring a little bit more balance to the sport. And usually fans are okay with that. Fans know, okay, they're getting us back for that call earlier in the game. I've heard people say it before. So it's crazy. But let's take a look at some of the responses here. And Nate Silver actually puts a response out here. Not to get too takey here, what feels somewhat perverse is that makeup calls are in the economic best interest of the league. They keep the games closer. So you have an employee taking the fall for admitting to a common practice that benefits management. And, I can tend to agree with that. I think that when you're in a situation like that and you have a really one-sided event that kind of pushes things one way, generally you're going to see an opportunity to somehow somehow bring that and close that gap, which does help the other team. But that's just kind of how it goes. That's sports. That's how sports operates. So, it's crazy, right? Someone here says, this is complete nonsense. Makeup calls are simply part of hockey. Is not every infraction is seen, and refs want the game to be decided on the ice and not on their whistle. Clearly, it should not have been said out loud. Yeah, I think that's fair to say. But it's ridiculous to act as if it's not part of the game. And I think that in and of itself is kind of the crux of this. The NHL is trying to act as if this doesn't exist when it clearly does. It clearly is a part of the game. It's a part of the NFL. It's a part of the NBA. It's a part of soccer. You see these things happen. Makeup calls are a part of the culture of the game. It's even a part of the fanfare of it, because fans can point to that and celebrate that, hey, we got a makeup call. It's just kind of part of it. Yes, you don't want to be caught on a hot mic necessarily saying it out loud, but you absolutely want to, make sure that you're doing your best as a referee to call the penalties that deserve to be called. Sometimes they don't call penalties that they don't think deserve to be called, when in another referee's book, it may very well catch a flag or catch a penalty. So, I think it's just a continuous balancing act, and the NHL is completely overreacting by firing this guy, taking away his ability to feed his family, taking away his livelihood over something that they know truly does exist in the game. But let me know what you guys think. The NHL has fired Tim Peel for his hot mic moment in the game with Detroit against Nashville. Let me know what you guys think. Leave your comments down below. Hit the like button if you like this video, and subscribe to the observant lineman, Uche Nwaneri. I appreciate you guys very much for checking this video out, and I will catch you all on the next one. Peace.